next to an underground poker tournament in Phoenix while watching Şengün score 45 points on Wemby. An elite group of basketball experts, aficionados, and Dean Wade fought and toiled and burned the midnight oil to deliver the best basketball segment in all of sports media. It's an honor and a privilege to introduce the season debut of NBA Tiers.
It is the season debut of NBA Tiers, and there is one announcement before we get to it.
Oh, good.
The committee yesterday asked me if we could invite Broussard, given his long-standing history covering the league,
that makes sense,
to be a member of the committee. And I told them, unfortunately, the odd couple schedule will not allow it, but maybe sometime down the road
I thought, but just not to 7 or 10 Eastern, Fox Sports Radio, and you guys burn the midnight oil.
But we start early. We start, if you're not there at the beginning. So
I'm kind of there a lot because my source.
Okay, you know what? All right, first, here we go. Listen, we're deep into the season, so these teams are already off the tiers. There's the relegation tier, the sub-relegation tier, and the contraction tier, which is, I know the NBA is talking about adding teams. Maybe don't add teams. Maybe just get rid of those two and put them in Vegas and Seattle. But that leaves 18 teams still on the tiers. Let's get right to it. Bottom of the tiers, get out of the play-in. Just making the actual playoffs would be a great accomplishment. The actual 8-team playoffs for any of these teams. I know people are like, hey, Orlando's 5th in the standings. They are, but they're a half game out of being in the play-in. For any of these teams, just making the real tournament would be a good accomplishment. None of them are going to win a round come the actual tournament. All right, tough out, clear ceiling. These are 4 tough teams that all should be proud of how they've played this season, and all at various times maybe have been like the Cavs had, I think, a 17-2 stretch. The Knicks, before the injuries hit them, were looking really good. The Pelicans, after kind of being under the radar to start the year, they found themselves, right in around the 4-5 line throughout most of the season. And the Kings, sneaky right around where they were last year, but we know what their ceiling is. All these teams have a round 2 ceiling. All these teams can win a round, but I don't think any of them can make the conference finals, so that is where they're at. Who's getting tricked? Sexy teams, big names. They all have a big 3. And somebody, maybe somebody on this show, is going to pick one of these teams to make the NBA Finals. I know they're going to be, at least, there will be a lot of people who decide, you know what, it's not going to be Denver. Who's it going to be? Well, the data says the Timberwolves are legit, as long as the data doesn't include every playoff series Rudy Gobert's ever played in. Look at all the talent you have in Los Angeles or in Phoenix. People are going to be tricked by these teams. They're fun teams. They're interesting teams. They can't make the NBA Finals. Terrifying for a series or two. LeBron, Luka, AD, Kyrie. Both of these teams for a week, for 2 weeks, for a month even, can look awesome. And you can feel like, man, the best player on the court. They might have the best duo on the court. Can either of these teams win 3 straight series, let alone 4 straight series? The Lakers with their rotations and the lack of defense at times and the coaching, the Mavs with just the outright, allergy to defense lately. The answer is probably not. But you don't want to see them across from you in the bracket at any point. Next, lurking with questions. For Philly, they're lurking because of how good they looked when Embiid was there, how great Embiid was playing. But the questions are Embiid's health and Embiid's playoff history. For OKC, it is just so much youth. And by the way, I've been saying that the Thunder, that SGA's never made the playoffs. That's obviously not true. They made the playoffs when they had Chris Paul. Since they have been the young Thunder core, they haven't played in the postseason. But with Chet and Jalen Williams and SGA, they on paper look really good. The questions are lack of experience. Oddly, for the Sixers, the question is all the experience being bad. Wildly undervalued. Milwaukee and Miami for obvious reasons. Milwaukee did what everybody asked them to do. Keep Giannis being awesome, add a closer. They've done that, and maybe they upgraded at coach. I don't know. The Doc stuff is confusing, but there were real questions with Budenholzer. And Miami is just Miami, which around this time every year starts turning it around and is terrifying in the playoffs. And right now, nobody believes neither one of them. So this is wildly undervalued. Wild's juggernaut, Denver. I think they're really good. Wildes thinks they're inevitable. I think Joker's one of the 2 best players in the league. Wildes and many others think he is head and shoulders the best player in the league. They are right now the clear-cut favorite to win the West. For a lot of people, they're the favorite to win the championship. And then, wild expectations, and that is the Boston Celtics. They are right now a minus money favorite, Brew, against the field in the Eastern Conference. They are a huge favorite, just 2-1, to win the entire thing.
Wow.
They have the 4th best point differential in the history of the NBA, and they are the first team ever to win 3 games by 50-plus points. They're at the top of the first edition of the 2024 NBA Tiers, Brew.
Yeah, that was very good. I love the names. The names are good, and even if I disagree with where some of the teams are ranked,
Can I
the
tell you
names
something?
are good. Yeah.
The one person that's on both committees is Harold, our English major. Because you don't have to know the sports to be able to be a wordsmith. So he's on both. But go ahead.
And I got a secret for you.
Yeah,
I came up with the tough out.
No, okay.
I was on the phone last night
Go
at the
ahead.
midnight oil hour.
Go ahead.
All right, but anyway, I'm going to go with OKC, and you said a lot of it.
Oh, okay.
I love everything about them. Everything. Except the youth and
Oh,
the
you want to move them down? I
gotta
thought you were going to say
down.
move them up.
I think they're a little too high. Look, I said yesterday, and you agree with me, I believe, I would take the Lakers over them in the playoff series. I probably, Phoenix, if they're healthy, and certainly Book and KD, and the Clippers. I think I would take all of them over
All
OKC.
the old teams.
Yeah. I mean, the experience, I think, is going to be a big deal. You mentioned SGA. SGA and Lou Dort are really their only players with any playoff experience, and that's minimal.
Yep.
And then, I mean, Holmgren is going to be a star, if not a superstar. He's a rookie. Obviously, Josh Giddey hadn't been there yet, and Williams. So I just think they're too young to love. And all the teams, if you look at it, everybody with them is a veteran-laden team that's got some. I mean, the Sixers obviously got Embiid and the championship coach. So I would just move them down a little bit. But
So we did see, a very young Thunder team a decade ago go on a deep playoff run. Even the distinction of there, of course, is as great as SGA is. He's not Kevin
Those are
Durant.
3 MVPs.
Correct. Those were 3 guys who now. And listen, the Thunder might have 2 guys that win an MVP eventually. SGA could win it this year. I know Wildes, Chet has high expectations for Chet. So I understand that. I do. And this is where I'm going to be. I don't want to say hypocritical, but I'm going to do something I've accused other people of doing. I am more comfortable holding the Timberwolves playoff failures and Gobert's playoff failures against them than the Thunder, who's just kind of a blank slate. Their lack of experience against them. And so, but I understand your point. Wildes?
So you're giving Jordan credit for not losing any playoff games when he retired from baseball? Yeah, exactly. Wolves. I wholeheartedly kind of believe in the Wolves. Just because I like the standings. I know it's not USA Today. That's the power rankings. But they are the best team, and I think we have to give them some credit for being the best team.
Brew, what is this not?
it's not the power
standings.
rankings.
I know
it's not going down to the hotel lobby and getting the USA
Yeah,
Today.
it's not
Yeah,
the
I know.
standings.
And then what is wholeheartedly kind of?
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly, kind of.
All right, go ahead. Sorry, Wildes. I didn't.
Well, you remember during football season, I came up with a lot of things. One of the things I came up with that came true was defense wins championships. That's also applicable to the NBA. The defense with Rudy. We have moved past the Rudy Gobert trade. It's the worst trade in NBA history. That seems to be in the rearview mirror. It's like, wow, actually working. You guys are in first place. Works. How about winning on the road? Good in Minnesota. Everybody's good at home. They also have the best road record. So that's working. The offense is good better on the road, oddly. So that works too. How about chemistry? We talk about, hey, maybe the Suns haven't played enough together. The Big Three only played 26 games last year. They're way more this year, and they're playing better. Now, the caveat here, and to use one of Brew's phrases, silly team. Okay? The most recent silly. Like, is this championship basketball not showing up for tip? Probably not. This is on the heels, of course, the earlier silly incident where they kind of were more interested in Cat scoring 70+ than winning the game, and then the coach ripped everybody after a loss.
Or last year in the final regular season game of the year when one of their guys punched a wall and broke his hand.
Yeah, the silly
Or shortly after that when Karl Anthony Towns, what did he say, Wildes? That what they did was more impressive than what Denver did?
Yeah, that wasn't great.
And that he's the greatest shooting big man of all time.
Yeah,
and then the veteran who's, been in the playoff wars, Rudy Gobert, who famously, pre-mocked the pandemic, and then also, well, no, he did, and he coughed on people's microphones. He's a kind of a silly fella. And
silly team.
The silly team.
Don't get me wrong.
And silly.
They're gonna have their opponent in silliness. They gotta get over a bullet.
League leaders in silliness.
They're silly.
And so
the silliest team.
they're one of the sillier teams.
But maybe they lock in.
Okay.
You know what? Real talk. One of their problems is offense too.
Yeah,
they don't score.
14th in offense, I think.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'll believe it when it happens, but can you believe it? Rudy Gobert's team's got the #1 seed and the best defense in basketball. What could go wrong? And the answer is the playoffs start. Yeah. So we'll see.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.